Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. I hope you're all doing wonderfully well. And I know where Caleb is at the moment, there's lots and lots of, well, it's very cold. No, it's snowing there. As you can tell, for a change, I have fantastic weather here, so I'm not complaining. And whilst I'm not complaining, I'm very happy to again give a shout out to our beautiful, awesome sponsor, Spooky2, who are the creators of the home rife machine systems. And in fact, I'm going to be doing an unboxing of my Hewa, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, in the next couple of days. Super excited to have received that one from them. So I'm really, really happy that we get that. That'll be probably in the next day or two. So watch the space because it's their new one, little Magic Myromate. That's the upgraded version of the one that I'm always actually raving about. And now there's like 30,000 different programs you can actually choose from on the little Hewa. So I'm very excited to be receiving that and unboxing that pretty soon. So they are the creators of the home rife machine systems, starting from the little one where we're just working with general sort of everyday little issues and going into the much more advanced home systems where you can actually work, have your own home system machine and you work with people yourself on that. So if there's anyone who is interested in doing that, you're welcome to take a look on the Spooky2 website and drop my name for a 5% discount on your purchase. So before we go ahead with Caleb, we're just going to play our Spooky2 advert. So thank you, Morné.
So I'm a natural health practitioner and I teach people how to live a healthy lifestyle, how to do meditation, yoga, massages, how to use herbs to improve their health, how to improve their sleep, how to do exercises, how to organize even sustainable and friendly businesses, ecological businesses. So I don't endorse anybody's technical products, but this product is something that I personally use, and I'm proud that it's made by my friends, but it works. That's why I like it. I won't use it. And now I never travel without this product. It's called GeneratorX. There is another thing that actually the basic principles of these products are coming from my countryman, that is Nikola Tesla, that was born near the place where I was having beautiful eco-village. So it's very advanced. And the frequencies that can be generated or are generated with this product are actually those that support life functions in our body or destroy bad pathogens. So I use it when I travel and due to bad food, bad air or all kinds of conditions that are happening makes me feel unwell. And if I don't have herbs that I usually try to be organic and pure, etc., and if I don't have sauna and similar things to help me feel better, then this really does the work. So what I did, there are a number of possible frequencies that we can select and record on this device so we can use it whenever we travel. And this is extremely useful because you don't need to take pills. You have the program that actually can simulate either similar medicine that you want to use or just create a frequency that will bring your body into balance.
I'd also like to just invite anyone, because I know there's been quite a few of you that have purchased Spooky2 machines on this channel. So if there are any of you who'd like to step forward and share your testimony in terms of how it's worked for you, I'd be very, very happy to hear from you in terms of that as well. Okie dokes. Well, I know you've come to hear Caleb today. So welcome. Hello, Morné. Okay.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? Awesome.
Morning.
Caleb, I'm just going to ask you if you can start off in prayer for us before we even begin the show. Thank you.
Sure. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another chance to speak about truth and see truth, the hard truth that has been hidden from us, for most of us. Thank you for the good weather today, even though it's cold and snowing. I thank you for food. I thank you for healing. Thank you for providence, for everything that you do. We just are so thankful to you for all your kindness and everything that you do for us. As you watch over us today and protect us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And I just want to, Caleb, before you start, I know I get a lot of questions about Caleb, and a lot of people are confused about him and what he does and etc. I want to really ask you guys, if you've only just recently started following Caleb's series, please watch from the beginning, because then you're going to understand Caleb's story. We can't, obviously, as much as what we'd love to tell you his story every single time we're on, it's quite a complex story. So to go back to the beginning, to listen to first recording, which was his gateway experience, and then the wild hunt, and then life after the wild hunt. And then he speaks about going into the military. And obviously from there, we've done a lot of stuff like the Cabbage Patch Kids and crystals and soul gems and stuff like that. So I know we have got a playlist as well. And I'm going to ask Morné if you can just maybe put the link for the playlist up, and you guys can just go and watch these shows from the beginning. That will give you an understanding of Caleb's beginnings and how he got to be where he is and got to do what he did. It's a beautiful story, intense, sad, tragic, harrowing, but here he is with us, and I'm very grateful that he is. So really, Caleb, welcome again, and thank you to all our beautiful viewers and listeners out there. We really, really appreciate you guys. So we're going to be talking about Mandela effect today, which is extremely interesting. I know it's come up a lot lately. So yeah, I'd love to hear, Caleb, what you say about that.
Ooh.
Well, I have a small testimony for Spooky2, since you put it out there.
Awesome.
I just started using one myself. I got the blue one, whatever it's called here. The Clen or CLEN. I'm working on my problem with essential tremor. And it's actually started to reduce it a little bit. So yay for that. Yay for stuff like that works.
Well, I know that I know that with these Spooky2 machines, and I'm so happy that you've got one. It's an intensive detox first, depending on your condition. Obviously, what's happening with people. Obviously, if people are quite ill, and everyone has their own story, to tell in terms of that. It's an intensive 11-day detox where you literally, your system is being cleansed in order for the new frequencies to make way. So yay for that.
Makes you sick, in other words.
Yeah, and the detox is uncomfortable. Yeah, detox is uncomfortable. I know it's horrible. So wonderful, Caleb. I'm glad that it's working already. Anyway, cool. So over to you about the Mandela effect.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because I keep seeing the movie Shazam up here with Sinbad and the kids or whatever. And he's claiming he never made that movie, that kind of thing. So it kind of brings up the question of the time envelope and how they can manipulate it, which is going to include more soul gem talk by way of trying to explain it a little bit better. So,
yeah. So, what is the Mandela effect? I know that when we were hearing about this, it's really, in my opinion, the powers that be have the ability to tamper with timelines, past timelines especially. So I'm just wondering, is it them tampering with timelines? And why? Are they really just messing with our heads? Or they're trying to see how far they can go? Hello, Danny Henderson. Lovely to see you. Yeah. Taylor.
I'm going to be careful saying messing with time is something they can do. People that I saw doing it couldn't go very far forward. They could go backwards quite a ways in the time stream. And I always describe the time stream as a tapestry, like a woven tapestry. I guess to make it more simplistic than that, think of it as a harp, a big concert harp. You can go back and forth on the strings. And each yes and each no is its own choice that you make, any of us make. It's all woven together. I'm not sure how many times you've heard that description like that, if you've ever heard it even.
Not really. Not really.
And so once you get advanced enough in the 9 magics, again, the ultimate goal is to have power. So the ultimate power would be to see what has happened. And if you can, see what's going to happen. Like I said, not many can go very far forward, but definitely go backwards quite a ways. These creatures of the night, as you call them, the evil, they don't really live in our time stream. They're cursed by time too, but not like us. They don't die like we do. They just keep living, kind of trapped in that chaos realm.
That's very interesting. So when you say trapped in that chaos realm, right, we understand now what that is. So they really sit amongst themselves is the only way I can put it. Like they'll sit at a round table or a square table or a long table and concoct ideas about how they can create chaos and how they can manipulate energies, because really we understand everything is about frequency, sound, and vibration, right? Everything is created from frequency, sound, and vibration. So we're understanding that they are masters of these, call it technologies, manipulations, if you will. I'm not really sure what the correct word would be. So they would sit there, and that's all they have to do, because they're not going to heaven or back to God. So they sit there and concoct ways that they can create chaos on earth. Is that what you're saying?
It's not chaos on earth. It's an actual place where they are. They are chaos. Or it says chaos was over the face of the deep. Think about that for a minute. They are chaos. God is perfect harmony, melody, and resonance. They're dissonance, 110% dissonance. Think of it in musical terms. If you hear someone misplay a note or missing a note, you always notice. It's very obvious. Wow. And that tapestry, if you're thinking of a tapestry, even a harp, you're thinking of a flat, 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional, or even 3-dimensional object. You got to think of more dimensions than that. Think in terms of a cube. Cubes have become important. We'll talk about those at some point. But think about the New Jerusalem. 1,500 cubits long, 1,500 cubits wide, 1,500 cubits tall, and it's a cube. If you were to flatten out Mercury, the planet Mercury, it would be the exact same size as the New Jerusalem. It'll be just in a cubical shape. Think about that for a minute.
Wow. I want to just, Kelly's question. Just can you, she's asking if you can explain more about the chaos realm. And I think that might be relevant to possibly more viewers. If you could just elaborate more on what the chaos realm is, because I would imagine that then would give context for a lot of other things that follow as well, right?
Is it the what we understand to be hell?
You could say it's part of hell, I guess, if you wanted to think of it that way. Hell itself is actually a being all by itself. So it's like a being that eats you. It says death and hell will be thrown into the lake of fire. So it's a fractal place, would be the best way to put it. If you've seen it, you would understand, because it's nothing but black and white stripes and squares and jagged lines, and it's a really terrifying place. I used to mostly call it oblivion, because that's what happens if you fall into there and you don't come back. You just went to oblivion.
Wow.
If you've ever seen any videos of the superconducting magnet levitating a frog, that's what chaos would be. Is they're contained inside a magnetic field. I think in the torus of the earth. I think that's where the abyss is.
Wow.
That's where they hide it from us. The North and South Pole are both photoshopped over. They don't want us to see that hole that goes into the earth. But if you have paid attention to any YouTube videos about newscasters getting fractal, certain people, it flashes into shapes and lines. That's almost exactly what it looks like there. And that's where they do see those, quote, jesters, quote, clowns.
Wow. So I'm going to go back to what I was saying previously then. I mean, then they would use that and try and concoct what they want on Earth, like, in my opinion, creating chaos. So using these fractals that they have there and trying to create mayhem, yeah, right?
Right.
I'm just interested in what Duke has to say as well, in terms of, is there time, right? Does time really exist here? Can you explain that to us?
Well, time is the curse that we were cursed with. Before then, time didn't matter, because every 7 years, the body would renew itself. Every 7 years. So it's called a Jubilee year. The 7th year is a year of Jubilee. Same with the 49th year. It's the year of renewal. Your body does not renew now. It just grows and grows and grows till it eventually dies of old age.
When you say we were cursed with time on this planet, why were we cursed with that time then? What did we as human beings do to be
What
cursed
did Adam
with
do first?
Okay. So we pretty much calling it paying karma for our ancestors. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't call it karma, no. But yes, it's something similar to that.
What would you call it?
I would call it the sins of the fathers.
Bestowed upon the child.
Handing over a birthright, that sort of thing.
I just call it cause and effect.
You could say that too, simply put.
Yeah,
if you're a queen of Namibia, let's say, and someone offers you a pineapple slice in exchange for your kingdom, and you said, "Oh, I'm so thirsty and hungry, I got to do it," and you did it, you're no longer the queen of Namibia. That person is. It's like that.
But you inherit whatever it is that what they thrown, or what Namibia is. So you're inheriting that, right?
You're inheriting nothing after that.
Yeah, except their chaos.
Exactly. Simply put.
Wow. Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, then here, Biscuit Barrel. I'd like to hear more about Mercury. This is making sense. Can you explain more about the planet Mercury?
I just know from dimensional sizes that's about how big that city is. And to think of it in terms of a cube, don't think of it in terms of flat lines or even a three-dimensional shape. It's a whole lot bigger than that. Same with the concept of time and fractals and all that kind of stuff. It's all very difficult concepts to grasp if you don't understand it to begin with.
Yeah.
Everybody's always living by the clock. I mean, it says live, and then the time that's passed on the show here for us. So that's the clock we're living by right now. But when you're a kid, you always want to be 12, and you want to be 15 to get your driver's learning permit, and you want to be 16 to get your driver's license, and you want to be 18 so you can buy cigarettes, and you want to be 21 so you can drink. And after 21, you spend all your time wishing you were 16 again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a slave to it, no matter how you think about it.
So how do we practically unslave or free, I was about to say unslave ourselves, right? Free ourselves. Has there been a certain time by which we've been cursed with time? Or is it just a matter of time before we get back to our original God-given graces?
Well, the God-given graces were given back when Jesus died for us.
Right.
He redeemed us. He bought us back from slavery. So think about that too. It's a free gift.
But we just have to claim it, right?
You have to accept it, and you have to live by it. You can't just accept it and walk away. It's not once and done. You have to work at it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you don't have to work your fingers to the bone to be living that way. You just have to accept it and have faith that it's yours.
Right. And live in accordance with that.
Correct.
And that's what Jesus was saying, right? That every man can pretty much do what he was able to do if you accept that. That's in layman's terms. Would you agree with that?
Simply put, yes.
Wow.
Tells you to go and learn about the Father's ways. So read your Bible. People just don't read that Bible much. In today's churches, they say, I've read the Bible, so you don't have to. I'm going to give you my opinion on it. That's what they say in today's churches, instead of saying, go get your own Bible and read it for yourself. Let it come to life for you, because it will.
Right. Is that why there have been a lot of missing books of the Bible? A lot of from what we understand, the Vatican would be the main culprit of that, removing a lot of the original books from the Bible. Well, let me just ask you this first and foremost, before we even go there. Do you agree that a lot of the original books from the Bible have been removed?
Right, you got Enoch for sure. You got Jasher. You got Esdras. There's a bunch of different books that were taken out. You have to ask the question: why did they take them out? What were they trying to keep from you?
That's
I always point back to the slave Bible. They took out every reference to slavery, to freedom, and how to be free. Most of those slaves couldn't even read at first, so.
Wow. So the question would be, when someone says, why did they remove that? That would be to keep us enslaved, I would imagine. Yes?
Well, just think about the agreement you made with your bank when you signed on with them. You got fine print, which I almost always read it just to see what they have to say. Most people don't. So how do you know what they're saying then? It's the same concept. They could go to that fine print because they know you haven't read it yet or read it at all. And they can just delete a bunch of it that suits their needs and how to control your bank account. Same concept.
Absolutely. So when we start discovering or rediscovering the missing books and we start educating ourselves, so that I would imagine is the same thing as getting out of the matrix. We're always hearing about getting out of the matrix, right? So as we rediscover the lost books, the hidden books, the stuff that they've pretty much been hiding from us or inverting, if you will. So when we kind of rediscover these aspects, that's when we set ourselves free. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's saying I think it's Revelations where it says at the time of the end, all hidden knowledge will come to light. We'll actually know everything that's been hidden from us.
Dottie French says, Dottie French is speaking about 66 books in the Bible with 777 missing, 777. Is that pretty much accurate from your understanding?
Well, you kind of have to be careful with some of that stuff because you don't know what you're looking at most of the time without discernment.
Yeah.
So again, it's another little web of deception. And even though we're looking at, and I know it's not the first time I've heard that 777 books of the Bible are missing, but as you say, it's what you're looking at. Now, can you elaborate on what you're saying there in terms of what could we be looking at with, if let's say we found all 777 missing books, what could we be looking at that we shouldn't be or that we need to be careful of within those books?
Well, it's like you wake up one day and you realize you're hanging from the ceiling. You start to wonder why you're hanging from the ceiling. You start to look around. You discover that you thought you were flying the whole time, but you really weren't. You're just caught in a spider's web, a giant spider's web. And you wake up to that fact one day, and you start looking around and you realize there's going to be a spider come along and eat you at some point. It's like that. You really have to pay attention to your surroundings first.
Wow. Yeah, and it's true. It's like what you get caught up in, and that's where discernment is so necessary again. And I think it's so important, my opinion, yeah. I think it's so important to be aware of these things, to be open-minded enough to understand that we have been duped. We have been lied to on so many levels. And these guys are particularly clever and masterful. It's like, you know, as you're saying, they live in the realm of chaos. They've got nothing better to do than hang out with each other century after century after century, concocting the most heinous ways of creating chaos within this realm. And they do it brilliantly. They are brilliant at how they do it. And that's how they've kept us, you know, as their own slaves, right? So for us to be discerning in terms of what we need to be looking at and what is actually good, how would that be a guideline for us? How could we guide ourselves in terms of that? Because so many of us are listening to our ministers, our preachers, our pastors, our parents, our schools, whatever it might be, and that one says that. And that, I mean, I just look at the chat here, and I mean, I love what people are saying, but everyone has their own opinion about these things, right? So faith, of course, I understand faith and prayer would be a really, really good place to start. But let's talk about what is a practical way of avoiding a lot of the pitfalls that are out there in terms of, let's say, finding the books of the Bible that set us free, finding the truth, in other words, because as Jesus says, the truth shall set you free.
Well, if you're not sure, don't be afraid to ask. Not me, not scholars. Ask God himself. It's his book. Have enough faith that his Holy Spirit will teach you and guide you and give you the gift of discernment That's what discernment's all about, to tell what's good and what isn't. Mostly discernment's going to come from your conscience. You know what right and wrong is.
Absolutely.
If something doesn't sit with you very well, obviously it's going to raise some kind of internal alarm with you. But even with that, you have to be careful, because they might just try to alarm you just enough that you walk away from some truth.
Right. I can so vouch for that, because I think there's so many things. I mean, you know, especially when it comes to the finer things. And we you know, God, in my understanding, in my experience, God teaches us through and shows us signs. So it's not necessarily going to be from a booming loudspeaker in the sky, but signs in terms of how you feel, what your intuition is telling you. Did that food, for example, make you feel nauseous because it's helping you release something out of your body that shouldn't be there, for example, or it's actually making you feel sick? And I think that, for me, would be the most discerning thing, right? It's like the detox. Some of us can say, well, the detox, the Spooky2 machines are making me sick. And others are saying, well, they're actually assisting you to release the toxins in your body. So it's going to make you sick before it makes you better. It's like that sort of thing, right?
Right.
And
so
I think that's
ask God for the gift of discernment. That's the very first thing you should ask for anyway. Let him guide you. It's his book.
Right.
There are better teachers than me about that subject as well. So I would still point to that. Just ask God for discernment to show you what he's saying in his book. He will answer you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so true. That gift of discernment is most certainly, but we're only going to get there once we've practiced faith. And faith is something, again, it's like faith, discernment. We've got to have the two of them very nicely balanced and synchronized, right?
Well, just to give kind of a brief overview from the evil side, I had to have mastery of those 9 magics in order to start learning the 10th. I couldn't just dip my finger into one and take a peek at the other one. I had to learn them over a period of decades. Then I could operate in full power. That's what believers fail to realize, that it takes some diligent study and learning. You have to know what's being said first, not after the fact. It's like the stop sign story again. I didn't know what it said. I didn't even know it was there. I don't know what it looks like. Well, it's not an excuse.
Exactly. Ignorance. Ignorance is not an excuse. It's so true. It's so, so true. Wow. Okay. I think that for me is, and I think a lot of people have been asking that for a while on the, in questions and things, whether it's been on your show or Jesse's show, is about the missing books of the Bible. And someone has actually just said earlier up, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Dottie again, might have been. Is 777 a spell casting number? There. Could the 777 be a spell casting number or the holy number? Interesting question.
Well, that'd be gematria. I don't have a lot to say about teaching spellcasting. I'll talk about it some, but it's like giving a shotgun to a chimpanzee and let it run through the library. Probably not a good idea.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I think we get that. Again, it boils down to discernment, which is obviously
right.
what it all boils down to. And it really, and this is what I love, because at the end of the day, we hold the key to our own freedom, right? People can guide us. People like yourself can speak to us in a beautiful way and bring us your knowledge and your truth that you've experienced over the past decades. And and again, I can't actually thank you enough for sharing what you have, because you've really been through all of it and you've come out on the other side. And I know you've literally, I've always said this, been to hell and back, and sharing the story now. And it's really the most concise information. And I've got to say, and I'm going to always speak about Jessie, because Jessie has been an amazing source of information on this channel as well. It's like you would be the person that Jessie speaks of that has experienced these sorts of things, right? Her having the knowledge of the system, you actually having that first-hand experience of having gone through it. And here you are sharing that. And I know it's, as I said, it's often not easy for you to do, but I really think it's incredible. Yes, Duke, he's half Cheyenne, half German, half Cheyenne. Duke is just asking about your bloodlines, or your bloodlines.
A relative who was a giant.
Yes, and I think we've spoken about that before in a couple of videos ago, or videos. Listen to me, 1983 call. They want their videos back, please. Sounds a bit like the Mandela effect, right? Or we, you know, in some of our shows where we in the past we spoke about that, and he and Caleb has direct links to the giants in the Cheyenne tribe. And I think you mentioned, can we mention your grandfather's name again, Caleb?
Sure.
Yellow tangle hair is Caleb's direct descendant or ascendant. Caleb is a direct descendant, a couple of obviously generations down, but his grandfather is yellow tangle hair. So that's would have been one of the big reasons why they would have chosen him for the purposes they did, because he has such a strong warrior energy and warrior bloodline. And of course, with his German bloodline as well. Your German bloodline was also quite militaristic, wasn't it?
Yep, Prussians.
Yeah.
That's the aristocracy in the military colleges in Prussia, so for Germany.
Wow. Good to see Cape Tony in here. I'm sorry, I'm looking in the chat again. Lovely to see our friends from all over the world, and lots of South Africans following, I'm told. I've got some amazing emails this week, by the way, assuring me that we have amazing South African followers that are growing bigger and bigger, and are very appreciative of you too, Caleb. So thank you for that. Yeah.
So to put my money where my mouth is, I'll try to keep us on track here for the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
I agree that the Bible subject is an interesting one, but there's, like I've just said, there's other teachers who are better equipped to tell you about that than I am. I can only give you my take on it. So in keeping with what we're talking about, we have to go back to soul gems or soul crystals real briefly, because I need to explain how they function in a way that doesn't teach how to use them. Really dangerous. So you've all heard of a prism by this time in your lives, I'm sure. You've heard what a prism is and what it does. Well, what do you think a prism does? I'm asking Chantelle or Morné.
Well, it's gonna reflect energy or refract it and focus it, and yeah,
Refract
yeah.
the light.
It splits the light into its respective frequencies, and it bends it and it magnifies it. You can also entrap light with the prism. It goes both ways, depending on how you use them, how they're cut.
And bends
Like
as
I
well.
said, I used marcasite as an attractant when I was about to do soul magic. I'd almost always put them into, I would almost never use quartz. I'd use actual gemstones, emerald, topaz, beryl, that kind of stuff, because it made the effects that much more powerful. And those actual gemstones are harder to work with. That's why I'm choosing to tell you about it now, because it is hard to work with. You couldn't just do it yourself if you tried, not without training. So when you attract this soul, you're basically putting it into a fun house, a house of mirrors. And you're convincing the soul that it's not actually going into a crystal. You're basically convincing it that it's not going into a crystal. You're getting it to agree with you. And sometimes that could be talking to it or just presenting some kind of illusion magic to it. They're basically cutting a deal with you, whether they know it or not. And so once you're able to get them to agree with you, that's when you can strip that soul energy out and concentrate it into whatever crystal you want to use in the marcasite. Marcasite would be set into a staff or a rod or a ring, anything that you wanted to enchant or empower. I have to speak South African here.
Yeah, told you, your South African following is growing. Enchant, not enchant, enchant.
So, with what I've just said, there's probably a flood of questions that are going to come. So ask away.
All right. I have. Okay, so you said something quite interesting. It's like you pretty much manipulate the soul to believe that you're not really entrapping it. Is that right?
You don't say anything about entrapment at all, actually. But that's what you're basically doing.
Okay. Now, this for me is something where I have questions. For starters, okay, I've heard you say several times that in order for you to be able to entrap or enchant a soul, whether it's human or animal, right? You can't do that unless the person, if the person has repented or they've been reborn, so to speak. But I have questions around animals because animals automatically belong to God, in my opinion, unless they've been placed in a body like what these creatures of the night do, right? They then would do all sorts of crazy things. But if you're looking at an innocent person, someone who really is unaware of what's going on, they might not have been fully reborn Christian, so to speak, right? Or an animal that is innocent, a cat, a dog, something that has been stolen and sacrificed and killed for their soul. I have big questions around that. How does that actually happen, where you are able to take the soul of an animal that innately, in my opinion, belongs to God? It's done nothing wrong. It doesn't know how to read the Bible. It is here because it is our companion. How does that happen?
Okay, I'll give you the short answer first. It's going to be brutal. You kill the animal. It dies. The long answer is they don't belong directly to God. They belong to Adam, who gave up the birthright to this planet, to the enemy. And they don't necessarily belong to the enemy, but they're in his kingdom. For us, redeemed or reborn, we have the right to take that back, to become husbands of this world again.
Wow.
Humans, you do have to, quote, convince, either through coercion, through fear, or through enticement or something of that nature. And you use enchantment, spells, enchantment, spellcraft, and runes in conjunction with the soul gems to entrap that soul inside that crystal. And they contain a lot of energy. So, like I said, the crystal can either kill you or it can kill something else. Either way, it's very powerful. You can't use a flawed crystal either. It has to be a perfect crystal, a perfect gem. It's all about refraction, trapping that energy.
Can I just ask you to expand on a perfect crystal? What is a perfect crystal in your
No
opinion?
flaws, no inclusions, nothing. It's got to be perfect. You can craft perfect crystals too. It's another gift that you can use to do that. Hence the diamond rings made from kids or whatnot, or your dead relatives, or whatever they make out of them these days. They can grow those crystals perfectly in the lab now. You don't have to dig them up.
So they craft perfect crystals, which are made from, I mean, we've heard Jesse often speak about they create diamonds from sacrificed kids, basically, right?
Yes. You have to bear in mind that people who are not saved or don't believe, or they haven't come to that truth, or they haven't accepted that gift, or open season, wide open targets. It's wide open targets. Up to the age of accountability for kids, I think they're protected. So little babies and such are not subject to that. Once you become accountable, which is probably a huge debate amongst everybody, what that age is actually.
I was about to ask, isn't that 12?
12, 13 would be a guess.
That would be the 12-year-old ritual in the system. That's usually when we're hearing about these 12-year-old rituals, that's when we're told. That's when they perform their first act of voluntary cannibalism, basically.
Right. And yes, there is a connection between the person and their soul. That's where you get that fractured psych ward type stuff. That's where you get that.
Sure.
Are you saying then that if we're looking at our mental institutions or the psych wards, stuff like that, would you say 100% of the time the people are being used as batteries? And or I'm going to just say it like that because sure, it's crazy for me to think about that, but I understand.
If not 100%, at least 90.
What about the other 10%? I mean, that I'm interested in, right?
Well, there's legitimate injury to the brain, that type of thing.
Right.
Oxygen deprivation or viruses or whatever. If you think about it, viruses come from here too, so those don't come from God. That's a mutation. Transmutation. Think of it for a minute.
Transmutation, yeah.
So back to this empowering those gems. You would take those gems or those crystals and you would socket it into something. So you'd carve the wood around it. You'd mount it on something, say a crown, a ring, a circlet, an armband, even a pendant. It's something that you have to wear. You don't have to wear it, but something that you can wear. And it's to empower your magic. That's what it does. It creates a focal point, a focal plane for whatever you're trying to do. So you're walking around with all these conduits on you. Look at your jewelry you got on now. Imagine them full of souls and the stuff you could do with all that. Each and every stone that you're wearing.
Is that, do you have to be conscious of that in order for it to be working? Or let's say I might be given this lovely, or I might go and buy myself a crystal ring that has a marcasite in it that contains, is it possible that I would go to a crystal jewelry maker, buy a ring, and that crystal is containing a soul, call it a soul gem. Let's just say that. Is it possible? And that I would then be walking around with a ring, not knowing that I'm walking around with a battery, literally, that is charging me. Now, can I unknowingly do that? Or does it have to be something like what you're talking about when you're specifically doing it for yourself, or maybe giving it to someone else and they know what you are giving them?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I rented a vehicle in Denver, Colorado to make a road trip. I took this road trip from Denver, Colorado to where I was going. Got there, got pulled over for some reason. They did a search of the vehicle because they had a drug dog do an outside sniff and it hit on something in the vehicle. When they looked into the vehicle, while I was sitting in the back of the cruiser with handcuffs on, they found a bundle of $80,000 under the dash. I didn't put there. It's a rental car. So somebody who rented the car before me put that money in the car and either couldn't get it out or forgot it or just left it. They said I could be found responsible for having that money, but my prints were not found on the packaging. So I wasn't responsible for that whole thing. Does that mean I should have checked the car? How would I have known? You have to ask that question. How would you know that? If you're a practitioner, you'll hear those souls calling to you. That stone or that ring or whatever you're buying will call to you.
So how long can it keep? How long can a soul be kept trapped in one of these things?
Decades. Depends on how much you use them, what you use them for.
Does it have to be alive? Like, let's say you were talking about people in mental institutions. They have to be alive, and I can understand that they would be feeding that thing constantly because they're the host body of that soul, so to speak. So therefore, they're constantly giving it life.
What I would have done was I would have cut a deal with the beings in the fractal realm or oblivion. And if the body dies, they get to take that soul. It belongs to them. If the body stays alive, I can use it until I'm done with it or until it expires, which means the body dies.
Wow.
So what about then if somebody in the meantime finds Christ, does the soul get then taken back?
It gets set free.
God?
That's the captain's free. Me as a practitioner can do nothing about it.
Right. But I'm still concerned about animals because animals are innocent. And it concerns me that there's so many animals, whether it's cats, dogs, donkeys, horses, cows, goats, that are innocent, that are being caught up in these horrific practices. And as you say, they're being killed. Now, how long will that soul remain being able to cover? One-time use.
One-time use.
And then what happens to it? Where does the soul go after that?
I don't know. I never tried to find out. Probably back to God. I don't know.
Yeah, I think back to God. So it's like a token, like a one-time use.
Well, when you use a set of batteries, where does the electricity go back to? Where does it go?
Nobody knows. Electricity.
Hard question to answer.
There's
answers for that, but they're a lot deeper, a lot more complicated than I want to get into right now.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm feeling uncomfortable with this, not so that I want to stop, because I don't want you guys to see me as some kind of wild animal that was hurting a bunch of people or animals, even though I did do that. I freely admit that I did it. Did it for years, in fact. Not
I
anymore.
appreciate you speaking. No, I know that. And I appreciate you speaking. And I know, and I keep saying this, and we know that this is not comfortable and easy for you to talk about. So thank you for sharing this with us. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
It's so important to be able to know what's going on. And yeah, you know, we're looking again. I actually, this is a question I want to ask you, because somebody sent me something this week about, in the 60s, I think it was, they gave a dolphin. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with what you're talking about, or this could be something that Jesse was telling us about in these water military bases. They took a dolphin, they gave it LSD or ecstasy or something, and they taught, there's this woman, oh, I want to throw up when I think about this. This woman taught this dolphin to speak while it was on ecstasy or some type of drug. It was either ecstasy or LSD, I forget now.
It's actually well documented.
FEMAC, if you're on here, you... Sorry?
It's actually well documented. That's a video you can find on YouTube.
And yeah, I'd not seen that before. But basically, they taught this thing to speak, the dolphin to speak. And then she admits to having sex with the dolphin. And she says she didn't have sex with the dolphin, but the dolphin had sex with her. And then this dolphin fell in love with her, basically. And then the dolphin pretty much killed itself. I don't know how, because they took it back into the sea after it had fallen in love with her. Now, I mean, this to me is just insane. What do you say about that?
Like I said, it's well documented. I'm not sure what happened with all that, but are you trying to equate it with soul magic?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it has something to do with that.
I'm not sure that she was a practitioner, so I couldn't tell you. Generally speaking, practitioners try to stay hidden and out of sight. They don't operate publicly or out in the open. Real practitioners. So let me ask this question for the sake of my own understanding. What do you think they make ritual candles out of? I want to see if anybody knows that question.
Ritual candles.
Fat.
Candles
Fat.
used in rituals.
Fat.
Anybody else?
Someone is saying soy candles. I would imagine fat, because I know fat is something that they use a lot. Someone saying beeswax. Jan says, I don't want to guess. I think I'm on the same page.
Yeah, me too.
Earwax. Earwax, right? Yeah, it would be human fat.
Fish oil.
I got something for you then.
Yeah.
Because most of you don't know, it's human fat for sure. And it's the fat of one of your worst enemies. Rendered human fat of your worst enemy. That implies that you had to have killed that person to use that fat. That's exactly how you harvest it. That lets me know that you guys are not practitioners. You would have known that if you were.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
So I'm going to equate something else to what's going on here. In terms of the energy you get out into and out of a soul gem. At the risk of sounding crude, we all know sex and what sex does. You know that what it creates at a certain point, it creates an orgasm, a release. You release an energy, a creative energy. A soul will do the same thing during enchantment or ceremony or ritual to empower a tool that you're creating. It doesn't create an orgasm, it just creates a similar release of energy. But instead of being like the burst of pleasure you get in your mind during the sexual experience, it's released focused. It's you point it directly at something for a dedicated purpose. That's why sex magic is used in the beginning to first teach you how to do this. That's what they equate it to. Just to let you know again.
Wow.
Wow.
It's so crazy how this has been so contrived, right? Wow. I mean, they know exactly how to do this. I mean, someone's talking about whale fat. It's more human fat. I know that
No,
from the
it's
boys.
human fat. It's fat of your most dedicated enemy. Somebody who's actually tried to kill you. So it's definitely something that separates the tricks and trinkets crowd from the real practitioners.
Would be, for example, if we're buying normal candles, which when we have load shedding here in South Africa, we got to buy a lot of them, right? Would you say that this stuff is put in our normal candles as well sometimes?
No,
So
it's too valuable to use. Mages keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let anybody touch my collection.
Yeah. Wow.
Same with my gems. I wouldn't let people touch those either.
Wow.
That answers the dragon sitting on the pile of gold and jewels. It's very all enchanted, sorry.
Get it right. Enchanted. Enchanted in the military. In the military. We'll teach you yet. We'll teach you yet, Caleb. Because I definitely, I mean, you will be coming to South Africa, hopefully sooner than soon, and then we will teach you. You'll even be speaking Afrikaans on this channel one of these days. Jy gaan sê, "Goeiemôre almal. Hoe gaan dit met julle vandag?" Can you say that?
Eventually I could.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I know you speak a few languages, so I'm sure this would be one that probably wouldn't be too difficult for you.
So
Wow.
to try to answer, I don't have ritual candles. I had them. As in, this was a past tense situation that I'm explaining to you. It's what I used to do. I no longer practice. I haven't for more than 10 years. I don't forget anything, though, so I can tell you what it's like.
Wow, wow.
About the Mandela effect again, I'm trying to stay on track here. Trust me.
Yeah, and I think this is all to do with that as well. That's what we get. You know, that's I know what we're getting to because a lot of this stuff is used for that. So I don't know. Do you want to go back to that?
Yes, I do actually. We start talking about cubes. There's a reason I brought up the cube for Mercury. As you recall, if you've watched my other videos, I have a cube implanted in my right eye. I can see it right now. It gives me a headache all the time. I also had an external cube that I had to earn. You see the pine cone in the purse and the ancient Sumerian writings and pictures, right? What do you think's in the purse? It's not a purse, by the way, it's a satchel. Your cube is inside that satchel. The pine cone is actually a roadmap where you can and can't go, what you can and can't do with that thing. They represent that cube in a lot of ways in popular culture. Look at the movie Hellraiser with the cube in it. Look at the Marvel universe with the Tesseract. Look at the Transformers movie with the Allspark was a cube. Look at Star Trek with the Borg. We have a cube. It's all cubical, four-dimensional thinking, whatever, whatnot. That's what was empowered by my soul gems, was that cube. It's an open gateway, a portal. You could stick your hand in there, and it goes to wherever else that you've got to connect to using entanglement, concept of entanglement. So you can put your hand clean through that cube to someplace else.
Wow. Another dimension or another city, would it be like a physical on Earth kind of thing, or interdimensional?
You'd use rituals to decide where you're going to go from your point. And if you know what quantum entanglement's all about, you understand that particles exist in two different spaces at the same time. You're able to access that.
I want to know if this.
Go ahead.
We spoke about the black cube, like the when you get a graduation, you get the black hat. You've got those black cubes in some cities. All these like black cubes. Is this to do with
the pyrite
those?
crystals? The pyrite is always in cubes as well.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a piece.
Yeah. Is that part of this?
I have to say that it is the marcasite. Marcasite's called white pyrite.
Right.
I didn't spend a lot of time trying to take the thing apart because it's dangerous. I just used it. Everything after a certain point in the magical realm and in the arcane will kill you or otherwise do serious damage to you if you're not careful or if you don't know how to use it. You could fall into that cube and just go someplace else and never be able to come back. So you had to be very careful.
Wow.
I'm just kidding about when they say think outside the box.
Yeah.
It's actually more to it than what
you wouldn't
they
believe
say,
how much doublespeak is out there. That's called doublespeak. Lots and lots of doublespeak out there. Most of the time, people don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So I know we've spoken about pyrite in the cube being fool's gold. Do you have anything to say about that?
Like I said, my cube was more than likely marcasite.
Right.
It had inscriptions on it. It's about the size of a Rubik's Cube. You remember those?
Yeah. Interesting.
Look into that story too.
I was about
Rubik's
to ask.
Cube.
The Rubik's Cube, I was about to ask.
You don't get the secrets of the Rubik's Cube until you match all the colors. That's coded language, teaching you how to use a cube.
Well, at least I had to break mine to put it together, apart to put it together. Broke it and then I put it together. Then I said, look. Wow. And I mean, the Rubik's Cubes were big. I mean, I don't know. They came in probably the 80s, if I remember correctly, right? Well, for anyway. Wow. That's insane. Wow.
They had a cartoon in the 80s called Rubik. And you had to figure his secrets out by matching all the colors. And to do that, to match all the colors, he would take you on trips through portals, show you magical powers. So there you go. It's predictive programming from the 80s.
Doesn't stop, does it? I mean, just when you think it can't get any more macabre, here we go again. The Rubik's Cube.
Right.
And it's still around. Exactly. It's still around, that Rubik's Cube.
Right.
Wow.
So you have to be very careful about anything you get yourself into. Pray over everything. Anything you touch, anything you buy, anything you bring into your home, anywhere your kids are going, pray always. That's why the Bible says that.
Wow. interesting because Duke is actually asking about Pokemon. Do you know anything about and I know my son was big into his Pokemon cards, and only recently, and I'm talking maybe 5 years ago, I mean, he's well into his 30s now, he actually sold his Pokemon collection for a lot of money that he'd been collecting since he was a kid. So I'd be interested to know what that's about, Pokemon.
You ever heard of the term scrying?
Yes.
What scrying is? Or even dowsing. You've heard of dowsing?
Yeah, with a
It's
pendulum.
along those lines. So to use your handheld black mirror called your cell phone to find these things and how to entrap them. It's another school of magic. It's teaching kids how to use magic. So it becomes a natural, easily repetitive and repeated thing that they practice.
Yeah, it's getting them used to it. Used to like playing and hiding and manipulating and casting and
Yep.
yeah.
It was very interesting as well because if we just look when this Barbie movie came out a few months ago, and I was listening, I never watched it, but I was listening to people talk about it. And then the gist of it was Barbie in Barbie Land was feeling the sadness of a human. And then they were talking about teleporting from Barbie Land into human land and stuff like that, which is very interesting. I mean, there's even Barbie Ouija boards, right?
Right. Just getting them familiar with the actual practice of magic.
Yeah.
Sure. You find it everywhere around you, all around you. You can't get away from it. You just can't. You're in this world, so it's part of what your experience is going to be like.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned the cube folds out to be a cross. I don't use the cross as a symbol of religious preference or anything because I think it's ridiculous to always put up the symbol of torture that somebody died horribly on.
Exactly.
I like the fish better. In fact, that's what early Christians used was the fish. They didn't use the cross.
The what?
The fish. Symbol of
the
fish.
Okay. Fish, all right.
Fishes of men.
Yeah, exactly. The cross is the symbol of suffering, and I've always said that. I mean, seriously. Wow.
So to get back to the Mandela thing with the traveling across those threads of time, I became, after I got mastery, something called a zeitgeist, a time ghost, where I could travel across those threads. I could see possibilities. I could see what a decision would have caused you to see or be a part of. Some may just get to that point and they get stuck because they find a situation that is enjoyable, pleasurable, memorable. Think of Groundhog Day and you stay there for the next 50 years. You just relive that same day over and over. So it has its own dangers to be playing with that kind of magic. That's why it's forbidden for us to mess with that kind of thing unless we're in rebellion.
Wow. It's exactly. To go back to something that you can't let go of, being stuck in the past. But isn't that interesting when we just look at human emotions now as a healer over the past 20 years? That's one thing I've seen a lot. And I'm not talking about I have no idea about the magic that people have used to keep people entrapped or stuff like that, right? But let's just talk about human emotions, right? Getting caught up in the past or get stuck in the past. You know, we repeat cycles over and over and over again, right?
Right.
When we haven't released the original trauma. So How does that, what you talking about there with the magic that is deliberately cast upon others, correlate with just people being caught up in trauma? Do you, like, let's say, for example, SRA. I mean, a lot of people will identify with SRA, and even not SRA. Let's just talk about people that haven't been traumatized by SRA. Make no mistake, even if you haven't been traumatized by SRA or some type of violent childhood, everyone has their traumas. Everyone has their stuff to deal with. And if you haven't dealt with that trauma in the beginning, you kind of repeat those cycles in very subtle ways, but other ways. There'd always be a core thread that runs through, let's say, betrayal. Lots of people will be experiencing betrayal over and over and over again, for example. It is on the same similar vein. Are you saying to me that it's possible that those family bloodlines or the ancestral bloodline has been hit with some kind of a magic, dark magic, pain, trauma, that's why it continues? Is that possible?
I think that's why people do see a Mandela effect, because somewhere along the line, they've altered something in the past, which is in a way trying to bend what's happening right now. They're trying to bend the narrative as much as they can. They work in conjunction with what I called the fates, the three fates, Clotho, Melchizedek, and Lothario.
What is that? Can you talk to me
in
in English?
The of reality, weavers of reality and time.
Wow. So what are the solutions to this? I mean, Caleb, when we're talking about this, the solutions to these things, I mean, in a practical way. I know, obviously, other than praying over your stuff, how do we practically go about changing the path? Because at the end of the day, we are human beings and we are creatures of habit, right? And it does take us some time to break our habits, that's for sure. What would you say would be a best, I understand prayer, we're saying that, but on a practical level, from where you're coming from, to actually practically change these ongoing traumas and maybe addictions? Because I would say then an addiction is something, I mean, in my opinion, an addiction can be broken like that. If you've understood the source of your addiction, it can be broken, and I've seen it happen with people I've worked with. So, but a lot of people really battle with things like smoking, things like alcohol, things like pornography, work. How many people are addicted to work because they're trying to escape something else from their lives, right? But I'm talking about a practical way that we can do that. What is that?
Well, don't make light of prayer, because it's actually your most powerful weapon that you have.
Yeah.
You have direct access to God's throne, and this is his fight. It's not yours anymore. Ultimately, he's in control of everything, and it behooves you to petition in front of him for the sake of your family, yourself, and your friends. Due diligence also comes into play. Like, if there's something that is in your life or your house or whatever that's not correct, get your inner voice saying, oh, something's wrong. Chances are there's probably something wrong with that. Pray about it, cleanse it, whatever you got to do.
Yeah. I think again, so then we just got to drop what we're doing. And again, I'm going to say fasting is a very good one to break habits, definitely. Right. If you know, for example, that there is something, a ring you're wearing, a necklace you're wearing, a bracelet, whatever, even if you might not believe, definitely things like reversing that, like burying it, cleansing it in seawater, stuff like that. I do think that for sure.
That's so that you can feel like you're doing something. Most important thing is to have faith that God's cleaning it for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's why I say,
necessary, but you can do it if you need to.
Yeah. But I think, you know, that's why I say in my experience of working with people on this level for many years, along with the spiritual side, and I'm not making light of prayer, and I'm not. I want to just make that very clear, because I'm a great believer in prayer and I pray all the time. So I'm not making light of prayer, but I am saying along with that are some practical things that people need to do or like to do or feel is working. Everyone is different. Some are going to get it like this. Others are going to walk a little bit of a longer path maybe, right? So things like, as you say, you know, along with prayer and obviously faith. Faith is a big one. We have to have faith and have faith that, and, you know, I always say that the body is designed to heal itself. Let's talk about Jesus as the ultimate healer, right? People that were healed by Jesus, there were two reasons: because they believed that they could be healed by him, right? They had such strong faith that once they touched him or he touched them, that they could be healed for sure. And also when Jesus was healing them, he only saw them in their full glory, in their full healed way. So to know that you are perfect, to know that you are perfectly created in God's divine light, for me are very important things that I've observed over the years.
I don't want to put your mom on Front Street, but we recently had the opportunity to pray over her. I prayed not from a distance and away, far away from you. I prayed like I was right there with you. I asked God to anoint your hands, and you put an oil on your hands, and you touched where she was hurting. And what happened the next day? What did she say?
Mommy, when you're watching, Mommy, I know you're watching. I'm going to tell the world what you said. You said, look, Shanti, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Look, it's a miracle. Honestly, her arm was, my mom had a really bad fall 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I've spoken about that. And her one arm was really, really not well and getting worse, kind of was fluctuating. And yeah, we definitely held that in prayer, but I put my hands on her. And that for me was important for her. I have to say that physical touch and me speaking to her and telling her what you had done. But my mother also has a lot of trust in me as a person when it comes to this sort of stuff. So coupled with what she knows my abilities as a healer are, along with what she's watched you do over the past couple of weeks, was a very big catalyst for her. And honestly, as I was putting the oil and stuff on her arm and I was wrapping it up and doing whatever I knew that I wanted to do and needed to do for her, I could literally feel it getting lighter. I could see that stuff release out of her hands, like from the tip of her hands like that, which was amazing. So it certainly works. And it's amazing. And that's why she has faith. She does. She has absolute faith in that. And I think that is a big part of it as well. Thank you, JT.
All right. I want to speak to Hannah B about her addiction to alcohol. I know what that struggle is like. You can be set free from that. It's going to take a conscious act on your part. And we will stand with you. We'll pray for you. At the end of the show, we'll pray for you specifically to be set free from that addiction. Any of you struggling, put your name in the chat if you want to be prayed for at the end of this. We'll pray for all of you. So I have enough faith that God can heal anything, anywhere, anytime, including myself. You just got to maintain that faith that it happens. You will. You got to put that faith into action by doing certain things. You can't keep going and buying a bottle or buying a bag of weed or whatever you're addicted to. You got to have action as well as words. So.
Indeed. Absolutely. That's exactly it. Walk your talk, right? I find a lot of people talk a good talk, but when it comes to acting, that's where they don't have the faith. They have the faith in their words and they can lecture everyone and brilliant oration skills a lot of the time, right? But when it comes to actually setting yourself free, you're the one that has to take action to do that. You're the one that has to take the step towards the healing or the releasing of whatever it is. You are the one, and you have to have faith in your heart and in yourself that God is working with you, through you, and into you, so to speak. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's interesting to learn this stuff that I tell you. At the end of the day, we're going to do more than that. We're going to do much more when God empowers us and puts it out there, puts us out there. He's called us to do that. We're called to do these things in His name. And if you think you're not good enough yet or anything else, give me a break. I started this coming from absolute darkness. Fell down a lot along the way. And here I am. I'm still answering the call. I'm not an orator. I'm somebody that hid in the shadows a lot. I never wanted to have my picture taken, ever. There's only one picture of me in the service. One. And I didn't authorize it. Every other one has been scrubbed because I wanted to stay in the shadows. I want to come out into the light. I'm actually, half the time I'm struggling to find the words to tell you about anything. So for me to be here talking to you right now is an act of faith on my part just to do it. Yes, it's dangerous. It's deadly dangerous. They've tried to kill me numerous times. And that's not me being paranoid and thinking that somebody's after me. They physically tried to do it.
Yeah.
One guy tried to pull a gun on me and he couldn't pull it out. I think God showed him an angel behind me that stopped him dead in his tracks. 10 feet from me. 10 feet. 10 feet, and a few heartbeats later, he would have killed me. So, I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination here, so I definitely have the faith to believe that can happen for anybody.
I know. I want to just go back to Duke's question here as well, if you don't mind. Sorry, Duke. Duke was saying, oopsie, sorry, wrong one. And I'm going to go into this because you've now said I can speak about this. He had a girlfriend 30 years ago, and she put a crystal ball inside of her, and that caused, I don't think she had an abortion, right? What do you say about that in terms of women? And I know that's not the first time I've heard that women will actually put crystals up inside of themselves. For what reason? What is your take on that?
Well, without knowing who she was serving or what she was doing it for, I couldn't exactly tell you, but I'm sure there was some ritualistic thing involved.
Yeah. Would it be capturing the soul of the unborn child?
It could be. Like I said, without knowing who she was working for, what she was doing, I couldn't tell you exactly. I never had people putting crystals anywhere. When I was a practitioner, I had my acolytes. I did teach them how to use the stuff for my purposes. I didn't teach them for their own benefit. I was selfish. Most practitioners are.
Yeah, I think when you're in that industry and you're obviously, that's what it's all about. It's service to self, right? When we're looking at the working for the Dark Lord, it's service to self.
They promised me I was going to be a god. When I finally transmutated, I'd be godlike. That's what they promised.
Did they promise you're going to have your own planet as well?
Nope. Just said I'd be godlike. I wouldn't need a planet.
You could hang around here and just do what you needed to do, being a godlike.
I could hang around anywhere, not just here.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. And again, I want to just say, wow, thank you, Robin St. John. You're always donating on our channel. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Wow. that is quite some information you've given us, Caleb.
Right.
Yeah.
I like what the Emerald Elf just said about magic. She's absolutely correct. The magic that she was missing is God. He's the ultimate power. He's the power that you were designed to accept and to be part of. It's a beautiful thing when you find that out.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 That for me
Half
is
hour.
always... Are you feeling brave? Are you feeling strong?
I am. I can sense you're trying to wind it down. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for you. You know, we always hit the 2, or we often hit, I wouldn't say we always hit the 2-hour club. Yeah, we often hit the 2-hour club. Yeah, but I'm just also looking to see, yeah, wow. It's just really, really, I think you know, I've been speaking to you for quite a while, and obviously I know a lot of what you're saying because we've had these conversations, but also I think it's coupled with questions that our viewers have, and just the way we, you know, the way we're putting it together, it makes a lot of sense. Not yet, Susan. Yeah. In terms of stuff, you know, that really is being integrated. So,
right. Well, I'm actually looking forward to the time when JC and I will get together and she can be the encyclopedia and I can give the answer from my point of view. Very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's coming. That's coming. Definitely coming. And I look forward to, I'm going to be interviewing you on solutions one of these days, by the way. Well, I know you know that. I'm more saying, by the way, to our guests, just in terms of personal journey for you as well. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that you still want to really talk about.
Well, with the cube, I'll get back to that. Using those enchanted devices, you put them together in different combinations of colors, sizes, cuts. They're all got different frequency, different properties, different levels of poison. Some of these things you have to be poisoned by to experience what you're going through, what spell you're casting. That's why I say it takes something out of you. You're making yourself sick because you're taking some of your energy and putting it into the spell at the same time. You're becoming one with the spell and the spirit behind it. And so inside that cube, you put these devices, and that would provide enough power in the cube to allow you to skip across those threads in the tapestry or the skein or the harp, strings of the harp. No, I don't equate that to the harp program here, by the way. Just saying that. Just using it as an example.
Explain strings of the harp, please.
Yeah.
I use the harp because it's simpler to understand than a tapestry. To most people, a tapestry just looks like a picture, flat, one-dimensional picture. They don't realize that there's a couple 100 pounds of thread and they're woven in all directions.
Yeah.
It's not just two-dimensional, it's not three-dimensional, it's there's at least 12 different dimensions that you can go through. At least that many. Probably a lot more. That's as far as I went. At some point, you start to realize that what you're seeing are just possibilities, what could have been. It wasn't reality to me at that point. I started to hate the three faiths. I started hating them. Call them the Norns. N-O-O-R-N. Norns.
Norns.
And to have dealings with the Norns was you're risking your life every single time because you can make the wrong decision when you thought you made the right one with them. So, speaking in riddles, he asked about dragons last time. The first time I went to Gleipnir was the first time I mastered how to use the cube. And to get the cube, you had to go to Gleipnir or the land of the dead. You had to go through hell to get there. And to do that, you had to talk to a dragon at the end of this huge black dragon. He was in a really black, dark castle. And the courtyard was black and white checkered, just like the Cabbage Patch Kids Hospital or the Masonic Lodge. And he asked me to solve a riddle for him. And I told you what that was, Chantelle. I don't know if you remember.
I do. I sure do.
You can tell him the answer if you want.
What was so powerful that it falls down, but it can't get up again? That was with a question you asked him or something. I'm not sure if I got the exact words right.
He asked me.
Right? Okay.
Right.
And what did you say?
Go ahead, tell me.
Well, him.
And that caused him to laugh. He stepped out of the way of the cube and was able to take possession of it.
Wow. So you have to tell him a joke, basically. You have to get him to laugh.
You have to find out what that riddle is. It's a riddle for sure. And he's not the first angelic being that you'll meet, because he was an angel for sure, but he's in dragon form. There's others that are a lot worse than him.
Okay, I want to go back to, hang on. Hold the phone for 1 minute. He's an angel in dragon form. Okay, now let's talk about what that exactly means to me, an angel in dragon form. Are you saying that he's a good one that's kind of like just pretending to be bad and like a spy?
No, there's no such thing. You're either or. Right. And it was not just a spiritual journey, it was physical as well. I was there physically. I should talk about how I got there.
Yeah.
When I first got there, I wish I had the video. I sent you a video a long time ago, that astronaut in the pool of stars. Well, instead of I'm sure everybody's seen that screensaver at one point or another. But it was, I'm not going to say where it was, what canyon I went into, but I went into a canyon. It was really nasty, dry desert. I went down into the bottom of this canyon, and there was what looked like a pool of water. And this pool of water was not water. It was just kind of like the Arab background here, about the same colors. It was swirling around and around and around counterclockwise. I had to get into that water. And walking down these steps up to about my waist, everything suddenly changed. And instead of walking down into the pool, I was walking up out of the pool on the other side of it. So I went through a portal. The first time I ever did that was I went through that portal. Very, very disorienting, very nauseating, very headache making. So I had to kind of recover on the other side. The only way that I could do it was I learned enough magic at that point. I wasn't a master yet, I was an adept. More than a novice, I was an adept at it. So strong enough to make it to that point, physically and spiritually. So I'll never forget that portal. That was an amazing experience. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to lie about that. It was a really cool experience. Tremendous sense of speed as you step through that.
Wow.
That's when I started to see these shades, the shades of the Nephilim, which everybody else calls demons. I don't call them demons because they're really specific about it. They all have different jobs and do different things. I believe personally, if you call them by their names, you have power over them. So that's why Jesus often asked the name of the thing afflicting the person. I don't know if you guys have read that or not. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm trying to
Very,
read all
very.
the comments here.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. I was just also looking at the comments, and they're coming in fast and furiously. So
I know it's going by so
as if
fast.
we're not quite with the program here. Sorry,
It's like
say that again, Caleb.
Uncle Buck when he's trying to explain to his girlfriend what he was doing. But I was gonna, and then then went over. We gotta stop, and then I feel like I'm talking like that half the time.
There you go.
So I try to pick and choose one thread at a time here. To answer what happened after that, that's when I went into Gleitner. And again, I saw those shades. Some of them were evil and they tried to hurt you. Some of them didn't even know they were dead. They were just continuing to do what they did before the flood. I have a lot of questions about that myself. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming up, Pete. Don't worry, it's coming up. Somebody asked earlier where Jessie is. She's just away at the moment, just dealing with some stuff. So no, she hasn't been kicked off the show. No, she hasn't abandoned the show. No, we're not fighting. I get asked these questions all the time. She's still one of my besties, and we look forward to having her back.
It's their personal name or it's their occupation. You can ask both.
Okay.
What is their purpose? You're not supposed to engage them in conversation. Just find out what they are, and you have authority over them and take it. That's what you can do. You have the authority to take control over that thing, to tell it to leave. They have to listen to you as a believer. Again, I'm not going to debate about Jesus' name. I know that's not his real name, but they respect that name all the same, so you can use that name.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true, Kimberly, when you have no fear, honestly, and I'm going to say this through my experience, and I know through my experience, I've encountered a lot of spiritual experiences. I won't go into them. But the key is not to fear them. I'll tell you that much. When you don't fear these things, they can't touch you. And it's very simple, because in that case, when you don't have fear, your vibration shifts. Your vibration becomes lighter. And it's like their vibration is very dense and very low, and it's very physical, which is why there's lots of physical kind of, and I don't say it's all physical. That's the only way I can put it, is that it's a lower vibration, right? It's a lower, heavier vibration. And when you raise your frequency, you become lighter. And it's nothing you can't pretend. It's nothing you can pretend, because there's no energy the one thing that never lies is your energy or your frequency or your vibration. That never lies. You can lie with your Jimmy Choos and your Gucci outfits and makeup you wear on the physical realm. Yeah, you can put up a good facade with that. But when it comes to your energy, your frequency and your vibration, that never lies. So when you are on a much higher frequency, you can bring yourself down to talk to them if you need to, right? Or do whatever. But the minute you're up, they can't touch you. And the fear comes from knowing that you're in alignment with God and that you basically belong to God. And that's my experience of it. And I've had some pretty interesting experiences. So that's what I will say. I don't know, Caleb, what do you say?
I'll answer something that you wanted me to talk about a long time ago. Lightning armor.
Finally. Well, thank you.
So if you look again at my avatar, I always pick ones that are relevant to what we're talking about. You see the lightning coming down on the one angel. When I was in the arcane, I was allied with a lot of really nasty archons. Archons are not demons, they're fallen angels. They're more powerful than demons by far. and they would grant you specific things that you could cast and send out into the world. Set out, not sent out, sorry. And I aligned with elementals a lot. One of the things they gave me was a ring that allowed me to cast lightning around me as armor. I couldn't go near electronics. I couldn't have a wristwatch. Couldn't drive a car because it would fry the electronics. Until I learned how to control it. Then it helped me to interface with computers, that kind of thing. Until I learned how to control it, that's what I was able to do. I could show up in an area and there'd be thunderstorms that would happen as a result. That's lightning armor. That's just one thing. And I'm putting it real simple.
So were you, was that armor, now I want to just go back and talking about soul gems and captured souls and stuff like that. Were those your batteries that enabled you to do that, or part of your batteries?
This will answer another question I heard earlier. Can demons, quote unquote, be caught up in those gels? They don't get caught in those gems. Sorry, not gels, gems. They can get caught. They get put into them because they want to be there, so that they combine with the soul that's there, and they provide more energy in a different way. They're always trying to get out of Gleitner. So,
wow. Do the archons have special powers through the internet? That's an interesting question as well. I would say I would imagine they do.
Where do you think the internet came from?
Exactly. Wow. But we're also using it to our advantage. You know, this is what I love to say as well, is like, look at how we're using the internet now, right? Yeah, pretty much the internet now, or technology, or whatever. We are actually able to connect with each other in this way, right? Where we are now spreading the information as well, that, you know, for the good, basically.
To answer Colleen's question there about them looking the same, the major difference, and again, I'll point to my avatar, is they have a red shift to them because their light is dying. They're fading away. They look real similar to each other. And they both will outshine us for sure in this physical realm. But to see them as they are in the spirit, their light is dying. That's how you can tell the difference. They're fading.
Right.
It's called a red shift.
Doesn't that make them even more dangerous for a while?
I was just going to say red shift, red magic, death worshippers, because they know they're going to die. So that does make them more powerful.
Right. Is that also why when we're seeing a lot of the celebrities, now we know a lot of the celebrities are pretty much their puppets, right? So not too long ago, I mean, we were seeing, I saw a lot of them, like Beyonce, Kylie Jenner, Selena Gomez. I'm just thinking the ones that I can think off the top of my head. They were all doing concerts in red. They were wearing red, black, silver or white, and gold. Would that be kind of them virtual signaling about what's going on?
Well, they're practicing in the public. They're performing a ritual over people. They're using all those magics. Archon in Greek just means magistrate or ruler of an area. So, in a sense, when I became magister of the College of the North, I became the magistrate of that whole area, or the ruler of that whole area. An archon, in other words. So I was on a fast track to become like them.
Well, thank God you're not. Wow. Interesting.
I said
Why
no.
it just... Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said no to them.
Yeah. What made you say no?
I knew it was wrong. That little sliver that Charlotta saved in me, that God inspired her to save in me, is what knew that it was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be wrong about it either. So,
and I want to just again, I want to just maybe for those who, just for context in this show, for those who haven't watched the previous the show on the wild hunt, and again, I want to just ask you guys that haven't seen Caleb's previous shows to really go and watch them, because that's going to give you his beginnings. But Charlotta was the girl that he was locked up with in the metal box in the wild hunt. And she said to him, always keep a bit of yourself for you. Don't let them take that away from you. Words to that effect. But basically, she knew, she was wise. She was 17, he was 10. And she said to him, always just keep a bit of yourself for you. And that's what, and if you also go back to then, that was the reason why Caleb took this path, because he was trying to bring her back. They convinced him in the Star Wars fashion. That's why Star Wars is such an important movie to understand, that this is in fact, and Jesse has also spoken about that, that was such an important control mechanism over the kids. Is that what was that, Palpatite, and what was the young one's name again? Anakin. Where that's pretty much what they did with Caleb. He was trying to bring her back, and they convinced him to, if he would follow them, follow the path, follow the dark, he would have the power he needed in order to do that. Now, when you're working with a traumatized mind of a child of 10 years old, in that way, they can bend it in any which way they can. And you are, I would imagine, one of the very few that came back, right, from that dark path.
I can't think of anybody else that's walked away.
Me neither. Not at that late stage. Not at that late.
I've said what they offered to me. They offered me money, position, power, women, anything I wanted. $10,000 a month just to sit in an office, do nothing, practice magic. And they didn't change their tactics to try to get me to come back. So that's really hard for me to talk about is my children. That was the catalyst for me to drink, but I'll talk about it. It was when I first ran, I connected with someone from my past, and I'm not going to say names or too much detail about them, but she was someone who had been promised to me in marriage when we were very young. She was a child of the system too. She's an SRA survivor, I'm sure of it. And that was an arranged marriage. We didn't look at it that way. We just were connecting. And she went on the run with me. And during those first years, we got pregnant 4 times in a row. Carried to, not late term, but carried to where the bodies were fully formed. You could tell the sex of what the child was. She miscarried. And again, it was the same temptation to bring them back. I was powerful enough that I could bring them back. In fact, they told me if I would come back, they could help me activate those 9 masks that we found into the 10th, and I could step into the Antichrist role if I wanted it. I would have to fight for it. And well, I lost them. I lost all 4 of those children. Very, very hard to, still to this day, it is shocking to me to think of it, to talk about it. For the longest time, I couldn't go to any store that had children's clothing, toys, anything. I couldn't go by a park. I couldn't do it. It was only 4 years ago now that God gave me not even about 3 years ago now, God gave me a beautiful dream where, as I had to bury them, didn't report this to anybody. We were stuck in a witch's house. That's a whole story all by itself. I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but didn't want them to get these bodies and have them turn into homunculi or whatever else. So we took them and buried them in a church playground. Of all things, took my kids to the last thing I could do for them was to the playground. And God gave me this dream about 3 years ago when I was starting to be delivered from some of this stuff. Each time I would lower their bodies into the ground, he would pick them up. He'd start out in the palm of his hand. He was crying just as hard as I was. It's the most heart-wrenching thing that I can think of, to watch him, pick him up close to him, and I could see him crying. And as he pulled him close to his chest, they grew into like toddlers. It was amazing to watch. I got to see them. I didn't get to see them here, but that's why I say I'm not afraid to face these things. I'm not afraid to die doing this. It just gives me a chance to go see my kids. That made me suicidal for a long time, and I almost drank myself to death because of it. So I understand those struggles that people have. I understand it completely. I have different reasons than you. Wow, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Thank you, Caleb.
So nowadays, if you look on Google Earth where I buried those kids, there's a cherry tree growing over the top of them. So I don't go there very often, but one of these days I'll go back there physically to see the place. So I don't mean to be emotional. I just need to say that part of the story at some point. Might as well be now.
I really appreciate you. I really do. I know that's one of the hardest things you've had to deal with, probably the hardest.
Oh, easily.
Thing. Yeah, that you've had to deal with. And really appreciate you sharing with us.
So I'm here to tell you, I'm not trying to out-bad anybody's bad, trust me. But I'm going to tell you, I'm there with you. I understand completely what you're going through. Probably more than you understand it. I've been through worse. I always get worse. I tried not to say that because it seems kind of offensive now that I think about it, but definitely not trying to call it down on anybody. But we can do this with faith. We can do it, all of us together. That's why I espouse teamwork so much, because that's what it's going to take. If you guys are aware that there's another virus out there, it's a hybridized thing coming from Charlie Chan country. I don't want to say it. The only thing I can think of, it's coming from the Far East. Let's put it that way. Land of the Dragons. It's spreading fast. We're going to have faith to be able to resist that sickness. I'm not taking any jabs. I'm not taking anything. I'm just going to trust that God's going to take care of us because he said he would. He promised that he would, and I believe him. I believe him 100%. So the more that we take time to stand together in this whole thing, the better off we're going to be in the long run. Eventually, we're going to do battle with these things directly. So I want you guys to be ready and be prepared for that, not unprepared. So this is why I'm telling you these things. It's actually very hard to talk about most of them. So
Yeah.
rant over. Now I'm going to go sulk.
You're not allowed to copy me. You guys pout, don't you? Pout in America. Yeah, in South Africa we sulk. Oh, Caleb. Yeah. Thank you, Caleb. And on that, we've hit the 2-hour mark.
Right.
207 people watching. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to ask, sorry if there's one last question, because I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Hanson. Your question there, Mr. Hanson. I'm going to find your question now. It was quite a way up. Something about the Israel. Morné, can you find that question there?
I'm also saying. Can't be that far up.
Yeah. Okay, can't find it now, so I'll have to come back to it next time. Sorry. I'll spend the last. Okay, guys. Well, on that note, we're going to love and leave you until Sunday. When we'll have Caleb back again. Cool. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us again for another eye-opening, jaw-dropping, amazing chat with Caleb. Take it easy. God bless you all. And we'll see you very soon. Yeah, actually.
Let's do prayers.
Heavenly Father, I want to lift these people up who asked for prayer, for Hannah B and all the rest of them. I ask that you address their core issues for what causes them to do what they do. I ask that you come to them, pour out your spirit upon them, give them wisdom, give them strength, give them the ability to say no, take away those desires, and just I put them in your hands, Lord. I petition on their behalf. I come before your throne with boldness and I ask you to heal them in Jesus' name as you've healed me and are healing me. I thank you for this time to share. I thank you that this knowledge is getting out. I thank you that I was able to be strong enough today to do so. Also lift up JC and her family as they go through struggles. And specifically, I'm not going to say, but you know what the deal is. I just thank you for that. Some people in my own family are suffering too. I ask that you heal them, give them healing. You give them what they need in life. I ask that you bless us financially, bless us with work, bless us with everything else that we could possibly need right now. You're the giver of good gifts, all gifts. These are gifts from you, not to be messed with by the enemy. You don't take them back. So I ask you in Jesus' name to be with us, hear us, talk to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Sunday. And take it easy. Bye-bye.